we are limited the number of people to maintain the restrictions of not having more than 10 people in the same place. And we're trying to keep our minimum 6 foot distance away from each other to, again, try to keep safe and all that. Before I turn it over to the chair, who is here with us, just want to make some recommendations. Again, as we have stated several times and requested to you all, please have your microphones muted to avoid the ugly feedback. This morning, in talking here to Sergio Estrada, our legal counsel, he recommended that we do not use the chat function, which, again, it's helpful, but in this case, given the nature of the meeting, it's a public meeting, and if we use the chat function, that offers the opportunity to have like sidebar conversations that are not part of the public meeting. So we're not going to have that chat function available. However, if you all can find the function where you can raise your hand, it's a little icon that looks like a hand. So when you click it, it'll let Marisol know that you guys you want to make a comment or speak, and we can unmute your phone, your microphone, or you can unmute your microphone on your own device. So far, so good. You all can still hear me well? Okay.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Okay, great. All right. Another thing, we have a list of the board members by alphabetical order. I sent that to you all. So the way that we thought would be better to conduct the meeting is on all the action items, we're going to have roll call votes, because again, we can't see everybody who's on the call here. So it'll make it a little longer, but please bear with us. Take a look at the list, and as we go down the list, please be ready to vote or to unmute your microphone when it's getting closer to your turn. All right. So we will go down the list for the first time to make sure that we have quorum. And so with that, I think, what did we do first? Do we?
Yes, we pass it over to the chair, who can bring the meeting to order, and then we'll go immediately to the roll call.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for bearing with us today. Thank you to the public. These are difficult times, and I appreciate everybody's patience. So the time is 9:04. This is a meeting of the Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board. So let me just read the statement very quickly, just pursuant to the order that was issued by the governor. This is a COVID-19 statement pursuant to recent actions taken by Texas Governor Greg Abbott that suspends certain open meetings requirements, and the governor's executive order number GA08, ordering that all Texans shall avoid gathering in groups of 10 or more people, as well as similar directives issued by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the President of the United States. The El Paso MPO Transportation Policy Board meeting scheduled for March 27, 2020 will be conducted telephonically and by video conference. So the first item we have here is public participation and public comment.
I think we need to establish quorum.
Oh,
Let's do roll call first.
Let's do, okay. So what we'll do first is we'll establish the quorum by calling the roll.
All right. So I will be calling out the names, so that Marisol can be helping us with muting and unmuting. So first of all, Chair Vince Perez.
Here.
Vice Chair Guy Margo. Mayor Margo.
Was there
I
earlier?
think he was earlier. Okay. All right, Mayor Araujo. Jay Benaziac. Okay, thank you. Representative Blanco. Representative Cesar Blanco.
Is he unmuted? He's raising his hand, but is there a reason why he can't speak?
I think he needs to unmute himself.
I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Joseph Cervantes from New Mexico is not here. Trent Doolittle.
Here.
Thank you. Representative Art Fierro. Can you unmute him? Okay, we see you there, Representative Fierro, but if you can unmute, there you go. Representative Art Fierro? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's Representative Fierro. All right. Thank you. All right, Representative Mary Gonzalez. Okay,
She's here. Mary Rose?
I don't see her on the list.
Yeah.
Not. City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. He was one of the first that called in.
He's call user number 3.
We know he's here though.
Yeah, okay. All right, Mayor Manuel Leos.
I'm here.
Oh, great, thank you. Representative Cici Lizárraga.
Here, present.
Great, thank you. Monica Lombraña.
Present.
Thank you. Chuck McMahon.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ted Marquez.
Here.
Thank you. Alderman Walter Miller.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Representative Joe Moody.
Here.
Thank you. Representative Sam Morgan.
He's here. I saw him.
Here. Thank you. Representative Lena Ortega.
Here.
Great, thank you. Norma Palacios.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Javier Perea.
Eduardo, can y'all hear me now?
It's Tommy.
I'm sorry, yeah, is this Tommy Gonzalez?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, thank you. All right, so,
Okay, I was talking earlier and you couldn't hear me, so I just hung up and called again. Y'all can hear me now, right?
yes, we can hear you, thank you. All right, we're with Mayor Javier Perea. Okay. Representative Henry Rivera. I think I saw him on the video. Representative Henry Rivera. We'll even go back. Senator Jose Rodriguez. Senator Rodriguez. Is not. Rene Rodriguez. Rene Rodriguez. I think is not. Mayor Benjamin Romero. Okay, so we understand the Mayor Romero is on the WebEx.
Okay.
Okay. County Judge Samaniego.
Here?
And Tomas Trevino from TxDOT.
Eduardo,
Yes.
when you finish, I just need one clarification of a statement that was made earlier, but just if you could come back real quick, or if I could go to the chairman and come back, a quick clarification.
Absolutely. We're almost done. So Tomas Trevino is the last one on the list. Okay, so Tomas is not in. And Mayor Diana Trujillo.
Here.
Great. Thank you very much. So by my count, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mr. Cabo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Who is this?
Representative Rivera.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So by my count, we do have a form. All right, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Cosmo, were you acknowledging Representative Rivera or someone else?
I think County Judge Samaniego wanted to.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I'm going to turn it over to the chair, and chair, you can.
Okay, Judge, you had a question?
No, I had a comment. I just want to remind everyone that under the new order, there's that 10 number is no longer in our order. That was before the order. So the spirit of the order is that you're only in a situation only if it's essential and it's under the guidelines. So that way we avoid people are thinking that if they get 10 or under, it's going to be okay, and it isn't.
Okay.
And so just want to be sure that we understand, like in this particular situation, the people that could be there would be the people that would produce the video or the website or whatever. But everybody else that has potential of being at home would have to be at home. And so we're okay now, but I just want to make sure that people understand that that 10 number is no longer in our orders. So I just want to clarify that, because that's been a little bit of a confusion of people thinking they could gather as long as there's 10 and under, and that's not the case. Only if it's essential and only on an individual basis if it's essential for you, but not to create any gatherings of any kind. So anyway, just going forward, if you could please let people know that he is always essential to create a meeting like this, but the people that go there, if they have an opportunity or they should be able to work out of their homes, then that would be the spirit of the order. So just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, the first item that we have on here is public comment. Did anybody sign up for public comment or public participation?
Mr. Scott White, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead.
Great.
Mr. White?
I'm sorry, Mr. Wood, we cannot hear you, Scott.
Mr. White, are you there? I thought I heard him. Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead with your public comment.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
I just want to thank everybody for what you're doing to keep everybody safe. And in the spirit of that, I wanted to offer a few suggestions for everyone that's present, and as we go forward, try and keep everything safe. And one of these things is, as people get out there and they want to exercise, sidewalk paths
sometimes they're not wide enough to social distancing. And in many communities, what they have done is they've actually closed select streets so people can get out and exercise while social distancing. So while they're walking or biking, they don't have to scream on that sidewalk or that path. They have the whole street, so they just don't have to move around that way. And I would hope all of you do that here. I also ask that, as you may have all noticed that there's a lot of people because there is less traffic and the streets are wide open. A lot of people are tending to go faster. And it may come to the point where it might be appropriate to consider as part of the emergency orders lowering speed limits, especially residential streets around parks or places where people are going to be going to the east side. Lower that speed limit to help keep people safe while they are out there, because when people get out, they want to exercise, but they also want to do so safely. And if people are driving too fast, that's going to keep them from wanting to get outside, get out, get that exercise they need, or get that stress relief from nothing going on. So, and the other thing is take a look at our sky and notice that the air is getting cleaner on the road, and that's one thing. We need to be working harder and reduce air pollution in the future. And the silver lining of this pandemic is there is an opportunity to look at this and see that one of the moves forward is to find a way to reduce traffic, not just now, but on the long term. And that means making our communities more walkable, more livable, and with sort of like more transit get across our so, these are things I wish you would consider as we look forward, but ultimately I wish everybody be safe, healthy, and helpless. So,
Thank you. Marisol, that's it. Okay, that concludes public comment. Okay, items for discussion and action.
I'm going to take over so that Money so can manage the board.
For the first item, we just have to approve the minutes for the February 21st, 2020 TPB meeting. Is there, and again, just, I again ask for patience as we go through this. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the February 21st, 2020 TPB meeting?
So moved. Second.
There was a motion by
Alderman Miller.
and a second by Mayor Martin.
Mayor Martin.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
We need to do that roll call.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. We're going to go through a roll call vote just for quorum purposes.
You want me to help you with that? Okay.
Or
I'm going to be calling out the names
Huh?
and Marisol will be,
I was going to say, it's just a minute.
Okay.
will be going down. Okay.
It's good practice for them.
Chair Vince Pettis.
Aye.
Mayor Margot.
Aye.
Jay Banasiak.
Aye.
Cesar Blanco. Representative Blanco.
Aye.
Trent Doolittle.
Aye.
Art Fierro. Art Fierro.
Aye.
Tommy Gonzalez. We'll come back. We can't hear you. All right, let's go to Manuel Leos.
Aye.
Ceci Lizárraga. Monica Lombraña.
Aye.
Chuck McMahon,
Aye.
Ted Marquez,
Aye.
Walter Miller,
Aye.
Joe Moody,
Aye.
Sam Morgan.
Eduardo, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Come.
Aye. Aye. I don't know why it's doing that, but I have to drop and call again all the time. Aye.
All right. Thank you. Did we record Sam Morgan?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Lino Ortega,
Aye.
Norma Palacios, okay, Norma Palacios,
Aye.
thank you. Henry Rivera,
Aye.
Judge Samaniego,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tomas Trevino. Tomas, I'm getting messages that you're on, but we cannot hear you. All right, and Diana Trujillo?
Aye.
All right.
Just for the record, Mary Gonzalez is on the call and she said aye.
Okay.
If we speak it into the public meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Sherry. I said aye. I
Oh.
finally figured out the technology.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll add you here also to the list of. Excellent, thank you. All right, so item 2, these are the next items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are items that were recommended by TPAC. So I'll read it out and then I'll turn it over to the TPAC Chair McNichol. So item number 2 is amend the Destino 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Destino 2019-2023 Transportation Improvement Program to A, amend the New Mexico 404 I-10 Bridge Replacement Project to reduce state legislative funds and National Highway Performance Program funds, add congestion mitigation and air quality mandatory funds, Surface Transportation Program Large Urban Funds, STP Large Urban Fund Exempt Funds, and STP Flex Funds in fiscal year 2021. And item B, amend New Mexico 404 widening project to increase construction costs and state legislative funds, reduce NHPP funds, add STP Large Urban and STP Large Urban Exempt Funds in fiscal year 2022. Chair McNichol, do you want to unmute? Greg, if you can unmute your phone or your microphone. Greg, we cannot hear you.
You can?
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning. Greg McNichol, Chairman of the Transportation Project Advisory Committee. Item 2, A and B are adding funds to both these projects so that this project can move forward. We can get into the details. This is all kind of tied to the Anthony Gap project, expanding the roadway there. And we recommend it to y'all for approval. Let's see that.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Miller to approve. Is there a second?
Second. Monica.
Second by Ms. Lovaño. All those in favor? Oh, roll call. Go ahead.
All right, we're going to start the roll call for items 2A and B. Chair Pettis. Aye. Mayor Margot. We'll get back. Jay Benasia.
Okay.
Representative Blanco.
Aye.
Trent Doolittle.
Aye.
Art Fierro, Art Fierro, thank you. Mary Gonzalez,
Aye.
Tommy Gonzalez, okay. We'll get back to Manuel Leos,
Aye.
Cici Lizárraga, Cici Lizárraga. All right, Monica Lombraña,
Aye.
Chuck McMahon,
Aye.
Ted Marquez.
Aye. Hey, Eduardo, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Walter Miller,
Aye.
Joe Moody,
Aye.
Sam Morgan,
Aye.
Lena Ortega,
Aye.
Norma Palacios. Thank you.
Aye.
Representative Henry Rivera.
Aye.
Thank you. Judge Samaniego.
Aye.
Thank you. Tomas Trevino. Let's see if you can. You have your audio? All right, Tomas, we cannot hear you. And Diana Trujillo.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
This is Senator Rodriguez.
Go ahead,
Oh,
sir.
great.
I vote aye.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator.
Before moving on, it was suggested that rather than having a roll call, if everybody has access to the poll feature, perhaps when we're doing votes, they can just use the poll feature. Everybody has access to it, and then if Marisol could just perhaps announce the vote, so we could just confirm that, so we have a public record of that. Does that overcomplicate things as opposed to doing a roll call? It might save us some time if we're able to do that.
The poll or?
Okay, set up the poll. Sit down, set
Is it more efficient to do that? If now we can just continue.
Yeah. If it's
Is it also feasible to maybe ask if there's anybody voting no?
Yes. So we've confirmed we have a quorum.
Yes.
So having confirmed that there's a quorum, we can, instead of asking, who's in favor of a specific motion, we can ask who opposes it. And if that number doesn't, is in order that doesn't arise to a majority, we can then assume that everyone else is in favor. And that works. That works as well.
Chair, are you okay with that? Okay, again, this is Eduardo. There's a change here that we're going to suggest to make the voting a little bit faster. If there are, when it's time to vote, we're going to ask if there is anybody that opposes the item or would be voting no, and from there we would, I guess, have more discussion and take a roll call vote if necessary. That works?
that works.
Okay. All right. So we're on item number 3 now. Approve the March 2020 project readiness report. Chair McNichol. Greg, you there? I don't think we have a Chair McNichol. If you can unmute your phone, Greg, or your microphone. I guess we lost him.
Okay.
He's still
Oh,
opposing.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Greg.
Yeah, I have been turning off the mute feature, so it should have been going live. It's just taking a delay before it to happen again.
Okay.
Okay? So on item number 3, the project readiness report, to let y'all know, if you go through and look at the backup material, you're going to find 10 projects that are listed as high alert, but 7 of those 10 are tied to STIP provisions that are either part of the November, the February, or the upcoming May one. So that a majority of these are all okay, and the other 3 projects that are in high alert have solutions that are just pending. And so there's really nothing in jeopardy. That being said, the CPAC committee recommends this report to the TPB for approval.
Okay, any questions or comments? If there are no questions or comments, are there any members opposed?
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Who was that by?
Second.
I'm sorry. The motion to approve was made by whom?
Ortega.
And the
Lino
sec-
Ortega.
Thank you, Representative.
Second.
And the second by Alderman Miller. Any members opposed to this item? Seeing none, the item passes.
All right. All right, item number 4, amend the Destino 2045 MTP and the Destino 2019 to 2023 TIP to program Horizon at Darrington Road interchange as a separate project from the North Darrington Reconstruction Project in fiscal year 2022. This is as a result of the discussion from the project readiness report. And this will also require an administrative amendment of the El Paso MPO's documents. Chair McNichol?
I think you're muted, sir. Just a second, sir. Is there a way to unmute?
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
There's going to be a delay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
we
I'm
can hear
noticing
you.
on my, yeah, I was just gonna let you know, it seems like I get a minor delay
Yeah.
before my mic will go live, even though I turn it back
Yeah,
on.
yes, just so all members are aware, there is a slight delay. So if your microphone is muted, it may take a while before it clicks on.
Thank you. As Eduardo said on item number 4, this is tied to the project readiness report, trying to get this project moving forward. It will be done through an administrative process, and we recommend it to you all for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
The motion, did you give some motion? I'm sorry, who made the motion to approve?
Rivera.
Rivera, and second by Mayor Miller.
Okay. Any members
Luis
opposed?
Rodriguez.
Yes. Any members opposed to this item? Hearing none, the item passes.
All right. Item number 5.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I have a housekeeping item. I've gotten feedback that it's hard. This is Representative Cissy Lizárraga. That it's hard to know who's speaking.
She's muted.
And then, Representative. Okay, Representative Lizárraga, part of your comment cut off, but the beginning of her comment was that it's difficult to hear who is speaking. If folks could just be mindful to constantly identify yourself before speaking, so that way, we can record, who's making a motion or who's speaking, and for record-keeping purposes.
Okay. This is Eduardo. Item number 5. amend the El Paso Regional Mobility Strategy, RMS 2020. Two items. Item A, add Category 2 and Category 4 funds to the I-10 widening from State Highway 20 Mesa Street to 0.22 miles west of FM 1905 Antonio Street in fiscal year 2021. The Destino 2045 MTP and Destino 2019-2023 TIP will be administratively amended to account for these additional funds. Greg?
I think there's still the delay. Okay. No, still.
Chair McNichol?
He's trying to speak, but I guess it's just a delay in his
Yeah.
microphone.
This is
I'm still talking.
Okay, there we
There
go.
it goes.
Okay, sir.
I will add, just to let you know, that time I did not turn off my mic, but it muted me anyway. So it's part of the system is doing this, just to help, I think, control back
Yes.
that crossover, okay? Anyway, item 5A, and we're gonna do A and B, Eduardo, or do you want to do just A?
Let's take each separately.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, should be asking you, sorry. This too is tied to just making sure that the improvements to I-10 are of the nature and of the road-based materials, and top coats are concrete, not asphalt. It's recommended as this highway gets a lot of traffic, so it's recommended for approval.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay. Before we do that, Alderman, before we take that, Eduardo, could you give a little bit more background, I guess, on the funding? I do have some comments on this item.
Right. So this project, this is a widening of I-10 between Mesa Street and pretty much the state line. It's one of the projects identified in RMS 2020. So the idea here is that given that 2020 is a document, is our strategic document that the board approved back in December, anytime we make a change to one of these projects, we want to bring it to the board to make sure that everybody's on the same page. The fact that these amendments are done administratively, that's more of a mechanical part. I mean, amendments to the TIP are done administratively. It's a mechanical part, but we really wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that these funds, that Category 2 and Category 4, which are funds that can only be spent on system projects. MPO staff recommended this to TPAC, and TPAC recommended to move forward with this.
Yeah, my only comment was this, is that, regarding the process, and I recognize this is Category 2 funding, I don't know if there could be perhaps a way that staff can develop where the TPB is advised, I guess, ahead of time. I recognize this is Category 2 funds and can be used for only on-system projects. But if there could be a more formal process where we could be, told, I don't know how long it's been known that this funding was available for this other project, just so that way there's a little bit more transparency. Because sometimes I feel that the board first becomes aware that the funding is available when we're reprogramming it elsewhere. I don't know if you have any comment on that or any suggestions, but I'm sure at some point during the project development process, or if the project is going towards completion, or wherever this funding is coming from, there could be an opportunity for the board to at least be apprised of that this would be coming down the pipe, and be prepared that you'll see it on future agendas. Because I feel that we just become aware of it as we're reprogramming it.
Yeah, well, we'll take that, this Eduardo, we'll take that comment into consideration. Yes, several months ago, when a similar situation occurred, when we just presented it as a report to the board. Remember that?
Right.
I think it was CBI funds that So I don't think there was any concerns or any questions that these funds were applied to the right project, but this time we made the extra effort to bring it as an action item now that we have RMS. But your concern to bring it even, give it more anticipation, just bring it as soon as we know it to the attention to the board. We'll take that into consideration.
And I realize it's part of the RMS, but I think just for process purposes, transparency purposes, as long as the board is apprised. Do any TPB members have any questions or comments on this item? Okay, hearing none. I wonder if we should allow for the delay in case.
We probably should.
And also, we can see some of you on camera, so if some of you want to raise your hand or something else to let us know. If you do have questions or comments, just let us know. But we'll allow a few seconds here before we close comment period. Okay, so hearing none, is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve. Representative.
We have multiple motions from Representative Blanco and Alderman Rodriguez, and a second from Alderman Miller.
Okay, I'm sorry, for the record, who's the motion?
No.
Representative Rivera.
Okay,
Representative Red.
MB, and second?
Alderman Miller.
Alderman Miller. Great.
Okay. Any members opposed to this item? And then again, you can raise your hand if there is opposition, and we will do our best. Hearing no opposition or seeing no hands raised, the item passes. Next item.
All right. Item 5B, Program Horizon at Darrington Road Interchange as a separate project from the North Darrington Reconstruction Project in fiscal year 2022. Greg?
Okay. So we'll allow a few seconds for delay here.
Coming live, there
Okay,
it goes.
there we go.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm learning I have to talk a little bit before it'll just let me come back on. This one too, if you remember, this is a part of the master planning that we're doing with the city project here in El Paso. They want to separate the Darrington interchange from the rest of that project. This allows it to move forward a little better. So, and Eduardo's going to expand on that if he needs to.
Yeah, if I may, this is just a procedural, more of a mechanical thing. The North Darrington project that is part of RMS 2020 includes the intersection of Darrington and Horizon Boulevard. Because that intersection is on the state highway system, it is much easier to treat it as a separate project, even though it will be developed as a single one. So it will have a separate CSJ, and so that we can track the funding that will be used for the intersection. But this is all still part of the same project.
And we recommend it to y'all for approval.
Okay.
Motion to approve, Palacios.
Second by Representative Rodriguez.
Okay.
Got a question?
Representative Rivera.
Yes, sir. Is this strictly on the intersections itself, or is it going to include the road all the way down to the interstate?
No,
Is it just a project on the intersections itself?
No, the project that is part of RMS is to the reconstruction of North Darrington from, I believe it's East Lake, going south through Horizon Boulevard and the southern limit, I forget the name of the street. Alderman Miller, if you can help me out here.
I believe it's Oxbow.
Oxbow, that's right. So within those limits, the intersection with Horizon Boulevard is included. But this is the limits. Go ahead.
And does that include the widening of the street itself, adding additional lanes, or just resurfacing or reconstruction? What does that include?
If
If I might, there will be no additional lanes added. It will just be reconstruction of the street of Darrington from East Lake to Oxbow. It just so happens that the state system that goes through the middle of it, so it's two projects, but we will build it as one.
All right. Yeah, I was just thinking of future growth. I mean, are you planning for that in case you do need to expand the lanes or add lanes?
We are pretty much restricted as it is. It is in a residential, or the limits are pretty much defined by the residential area on either side. So there's not much chance for expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so there was already a motion and a second. Give it a few more seconds just in case if anybody raises their hand or. Okay. Any members opposed to this item? Hearing or seeing none, the item passes.
Okay, item number 6, approve initiation of a 30-day public involvement comment period for the amended Destino 2045 MTP, Destino 2021 to 2024 TIP, and Transportation Conformity Report. Greg?
Yes, I see my mic's live still. So, Greg here. I recommend this for y'all approval. This one will be a little unusual because it will follow the new COVID-19 restrictions on the amount of people that actually, as Judge Brooke reminded us, it'll be an online version as we start this process and depending on how long this restrictions stay in place. So we recommend it to y'all for approval.
Okay, and I guess, and what steps are being taken, I guess, to inform the public of I guess, how they can participate in these, in this period?
Right. Roger, do you want to expand on that, Roger?
Yeah, Roger Williams with the El Paso EPMPO. We are notifying the public through our list of stakeholders, and we will be also putting this information on the web page. We're going to, ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to have the 30 days of public involvement through a virtual public involvement. We'll be able to have a public meeting during that time. It will be conducted through similar, if it's this, it'll be a WebEx meeting. So the public involvement actually starts this Sunday. We'll do the 30 days. The meeting will be on April the 8th. We'll have a 2-hour meeting from 5 to 7. And we will have a online continuous activity so that the public can provide comments throughout the process. So we will make the extra effort to reach to the public and inform them of what's going on and how it's going to work. And we'll be putting advertisements in the newspapers this weekend. So hopefully we'll be able to reach out and still continue to get comments. We'll bring those comments back to the policy board prior to getting the approval for the document.
And I mean, we should be doing this every time there is public comment, but if TPB members can assist in this effort by reposting the information on social media networks. I know a lot more members have been more active on social media. Everybody has, in light of the current situation with COVID-19. I think that would just be helpful for the sake of transparency. It's already at these events there's a low participation rate when it comes to public involvement. But anything we can do to publicize that, for this virtual public comment and inform the public of how they can get involved, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, we will have more of a presence on social media. So thank you for mentioning that. We too, through Facebook, will be putting the information out there, and we'll be looking at other opportunities. So staff is currently working on those things, and we'll keep doing.
Question.
Councilman Rivera.
Yes, sir. That's the next point, Mr. Chair. And also, I was just wondering, are you going to provide that to the members of the committee right now? I mean, so that we can place that on our social paid media as well, so we can saturate and not have any doubt that the public is being informed.
Yes, sir. We will inform the TPB members too, also we can do your individual outreach to assist with this.
Okay, so perhaps, if there can be perhaps either an email sent with the link information that can be reposted on social media.
Absolutely. I'll do that.
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve this item?
To approve.
Who was that?
Second. Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, it was
Representative Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, and the second was by Representative Blanco?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any members opposed to this item? Give it a few seconds. Hearing or seeing none, the item passes.
All right. Item number 7, approve Texas A&M Texas Transportation Institute TTI Interlocal Cooperation Agreement. I'll take this one, Mr. Chair. This is a lot of the MPO. So as part of the work that we need to complete in the next couple of years, that includes the development of the new transportation plan and other documents that the MPO is responsible for, we thought that it would be a very good idea to engage TTI. As you all know, we have been working with TTI, but that's been through contracts that TxDOT has made available to us. In this time, I think we are ready to have our own agreement with TTI. So mechanically what we're asking you all to approve today, which was in your backup, is a very simple master agreement that spells out the basic roles and responsibilities of TTI and the MPO. The idea is that as we identify specific needs and specific work, all of these will be handled through individual task orders or work authorizations, and each one will have its own scope, dollar amount, schedule, and a lot more detailed stuff. So again, this is a master agreement that gives us the sort of like the overall framework, and later on we will be developing individual task orders. And I'm looking at Sergio, our legal counsel, since he reviewed it. And anything that we need to add, Sergio?
I don't think so. I think you've covered it all. This agreement, this contract is very similar to the previous contract. So as long as it's approved by the board, I think we're fine.
Yeah, and procedurally, if the board approves this, then we would have the chair of the TPB to sign it.
All right. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Senator, go ahead.
This is Senator Rodriguez.
Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Calvo, will the individual items that DTI might be asked to do and the NPO is going to have to fund, will those be brought before the TPB for approval?
Yes, we will bring it to the TPB for approval.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Allow a few seconds for the delay. If there are no further questions or comments, is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve, Ted Marquez.
It is a motion by Mr. Marquez.
Walter.
I'm sorry, the second was by whom?
Walter Miller.
Okay, Alderman Miller. There's a motion and a second. Any members opposed to this item? Seeing or hearing none, the item passes.
Okay, item number 8, approve Rider 7 local air quality planning grant between El Paso MPO and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. Again, this is Eduardo. The background on this, some months ago, the MPO submitted an application and it was approved by TCEQ funding grant for us to develop a sketch tool for air quality for emissions analysis. This tool, it's the second time that the MPO does it. It's a very helpful tool in the sense that it gives us a pretty good idea when we run different sensitivity analysis, different scenarios with our travel demand model. Instead of going through the full-blown conformity process, we use a sketch tool to see the impact on emissions of any changes or different scenarios from the travel demand model. So it's been very helpful in asking questions from the consultative partners as we go through the conformity process. So we submitted the application. It was approved. That grant is for about $267,000, I believe. So so what we're bringing to the board is the contract between TCEQ and the MPO so that we can receive those funds and perform that work. And again, I'm looking at Sergio for any additional information.
And Eduardo, am I online? This is the one that was previously signed, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so I would just like to also let the board know that this matter was signed and submitted to TCEQ, and I think there might have been a failure in communication. So we took those actions. We executed the contract without first coming to the TPB for approval of the board. MPO staff and I discussed this last week, and we decided that that was not the proper process. The proper process has always been and will always be that all contracts, before there's any execution, are brought to the board for approval. And so what we're doing today is having you approve and ratify the actions that have already been taken, with the understanding that we are going to take steps to minimize or completely eliminate situations like this from happening again in the future.
Any questions or comments from TPB members? A few seconds here.
There is a comment from Genevieve Bell, and she's asking how would we reach low-income and minority groups who don't have access to computers, that they usually have these access through library.
Was everyone able to hear your question?
Yes.
This is Roger Williams again here at the MPO. So we're going to make the extra effort, and I think also the idea to provide to our policy board members so that they can send out to their distribution lists. We have a pretty extensive list, but it is very important that we make sure we make the extra effort to reach the low income and minority populations. Through that, I think that we can identify specifically where those areas are at, and the representation that is provided through the representatives of the policy board and their constituency will make all the extra effort that we can to get the word out to all groups, to include the low income and minority groups.
All right, so this is about that comment referred to item number 6. So we'll take that into consideration as well as to make sure that we cover all low income and the EJ populations for when we go through the public involvement period.
There's public comment from the staff right now.
On which one?
8.
This is Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes?
Go ahead.
Why is it that we had this date, the 281,000, 250,000, and then it wasn't brought to us prior? So this is after the fact. So my question is, why was it done after the fact?
Because was it a time concern?
So this is
And that's why it wasn't brought up to us prior to taking that action?
Representative Rodriguez, this is Sergio Estrada, legal counsel for the MPO. It should have been brought to the TPB prior to execution. I believe the best explanation for why it wasn't brought to the TPB prior to execution was there was kind of a misunderstanding as to what exactly was occurring. I believe that I might have been under the impression that we were submitting a grant request when in fact it was already a contract. That might have been the miscommunication that occurred. Nonetheless, however, we proceeded with execution of this grant, which is going to provide the MPO with funds to do studies. I don't think it was because time was of the essence. I believe it was just a failure in communication or understanding what exactly the document itself was. However, we're able to bring it back to the TPB for consideration and the approval that we're seeking at this point in time. But as I stated earlier, with the understanding that we're trying to minimize these miscommunications from occurring, and most certainly from just making sure they don't occur again. The advice for me to MPO staff has been and will always be that all contracts must be approved by the TPB board prior to any execution.
Thank you.
Councilman Rivera.
Yes, sir. I hate to be this executive, but I didn't hear, I heard Mr. Rodriguez's question, but I didn't hear the first part of the attorney's answer. He came in kind of low. I don't know if it was just mine or he's coming across this way.
Representative.
What was the first part to the...
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now? This is Sergio Estrada.
You're coming in now.
Okay, great. So basically, what I told Representative Rodriguez is it was probably a breakdown in communication as to what the document itself really was. I might have been under the impression that what we were signing off on was a grant request, since the MPO stands to receive funds from submitting this request, but in actuality, what it was a contract. Which is why it was, it wasn't stopped by legal prior to full execution. But as I stated earlier, we've, as soon as we discovered what had occurred, MPO staff was advised to immediately place it on the agenda for today to be considered by you all. And again, with the understanding that no contracts are ever to be executed without TPB board approval.
Okay, thank you. And has this ever happened before, or is this the first time it's taking place?
I'll answer that. This is Eduardo. This is the first time that it happens since I've been your executive director. Again, as Sergio said, it was a little bit of breakdown in communication, but so yeah, we jumped the gun. That's really what happened. So we are coming back to the board to have you all hopefully approve this item, which ratifies the contract. Without action, then we wouldn't be able to move forward with the contract.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the explanation.
Any other questions or comments from TPB members? Okay, hearing none.
There's public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Public
that's right.
comment?
There is public
Mr.
comment.
Scott White?
Mr. Scott White. You're able to catch him? Okay, we have a public comment from Mr. Scott White.
This is Scott White.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay. On this item, I'm concerned that we have a grant to study air quality emissions, especially with it relating to travel demand models, but it's also a health issue. And we need to be looking not just at whether this is going to take us out of performance, but what travel and transportation is doing to our communities, especially where you have something like a freeway that's running through a middle of a residential neighborhood, or how it's impacting job quality or life quality or quality of life at a school that might be adjacent to these things. As we do this, we should not be looking at how far we can push transportation, but how we can make transportation better for our community. And that means looking at how we design our system so that it's about planning for people, not simply just for cars. Thank you.
Yeah, Scott, this is Eduardo. Yes, I mean, your comment well taken. As the MPO improves the travel demand model, and as you all know, we are initiating the process to develop a new model. Yeah, we are, our ability to look at in more detail different modes of transportation, so it's not just moving vehicles on highways. So yeah, we're hoping that this tool, the sketch tool that we will develop under this grant, will allow us to evaluate those changes and evaluate the differential in emissions. I totally agree with you. It's not just the mechanical conformity issue. It is a health issue.
Okay, any questions or comments from TPB members? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve this item?
This is Walt Miller. I would move to ratify this contract.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Miller and a second by Mayor Margot. Okay. Any members opposed to this item? Hearing or seeing none, the item passes.
All right, item 9.
Just to go back to the comments that Ms. Mills did for the public comment, she said that she would just suggest reaching out and working with school districts since they have been getting emails from local schools and teachers.
Did everyone hear that?
All right, we'll include that in the record and take that comment into consideration. All right, item 9. Allow and approve Eduardo Calvo, El Paso MPO Executive Director, to submit comments to the Texas Transportation Commission on behalf of the El Paso MPO Transportation Policy Board for the proposed amendment to the 2020 Unified Transportation Program, UTP. So we have you there, Chair, but you have to take over. So at the February Texas Transportation Commission, it was officially announced that the commission was intending to program $3.4 billion on a project on I-35 in Austin. So the issue at hand is that would require an amendment to the current fiscal year 20 UTP. Given that it's a huge amount of money, it's generated a little bit of a controversy because, again, I don't think anybody questions that the project is the right one. I-35 and going through Austin is a mess, and it's got, I think it ranks as the #1 congested corridor in the state, and so on. But what has created a little bit of heartburn at the state level is the fact that the commission is proposing to fund $3.4 billion using Category 12. So the commission started the process at the February TTC meeting. We are currently under a comment period right now, which ends, I believe, in the middle of April. And so there's an opportunity to provide comments. Can you go down to the slide, Gabby? The first part, this is a presentation that was provided at the TTC that TxDOT staff did. Again, it's a huge project. Move down, Gabby, please. Those are the limits of the project. Come down. a little more. Right. So this is really the plan to fund it. It's the project itself is about 7-point-something billion dollars. The proposal now is to program 3.4 of Category 12, and then add more money in fiscal year 21 UTP, about 934. But this also requires that that CAMPO, which is the MPO for the Austin area, reprioritize some of their existing projects. I think it's mostly with their Category 2, to help fund this project. So again, this was a proposal that the commission, was pretty much putting out to the public for review. Can you go down, scroll down, Kenny? So this is a schedule for the public involvement period. It officially started on the 12th of March. They had a public meeting on the 3rd. There is a public hearing scheduled for April 7th. And then at the April commission meeting, they would either approve or, well, they would take action on the amendment itself. All right, so these are, in your packet, you have all these ways of providing comments. Scroll down. So then the second part of the documents, or the second document that we included in your package, is a resolution from the North Central Texas COG, which is the MPO for the Dallas-Fort Worth region. What is interesting in this situation is that the NCT COG really does not like the idea that $3.4 billion of Category 12 are being programmed for that project in Austin, and directed their MPO director to come up with a different plan. What you see right there is a resolution, but let's go down, Gabby, to the... This is a presentation that Michael Morris, the executive director of their MPO, provided to... Actually, he submitted it to all the MPOs just for information. So it basically spells out the difference between the commission plan and what he calls Plan B in this case, is for the managed lane, the added lanes on that piece of I-35 to be managed lanes, in other words, to toll them. The plan that the commission is proposing does not consider any tolls. And this is again part of the environment that the state, throughout the state, where toll projects are not being seen as very positive. Go down, Gabby. There's a comparison of the Plan A and Plan B. Go down. So, what Michael Morris was sharing in this presentation is really the only difference is that the added capacity would be managed lanes versus keeping it all as non-toll. There you go. It is a very touchy situation here. The fact that one region is getting into the business of another region. Michael Morris was very frank and sincere in saying that he was very uncomfortable saying that, or getting involved in this, but he was directed by his policy board to do this. So so there's he did not request or suggest that other MPOs follow suit and supporting his Plan B versus the Commission Plan A. Obviously, the one of the big differences or the consequences is that by the Commission spending or putting in $3.4 billion of Category 12, that could hurt the rest of the state. In other words, those funds would not be available to the rest of the state, including El Paso, obviously. Go down. So again, in your package, you can see the differences. All right, let's move on to the final exhibit. The final exhibit in your package is a letter that the chairs of the two transportation committees in the legislature, at the Senate and the House of Representatives, Senator Nichols and Representative scroll down, and Representative Canales, they sent a letter to the commission asking them to rethink and to delay the decision on this project. And again, now that we are seeing some of the consequences of the current COVID-19 epidemic and the impact that this is putting on the economy, the letter rightly identifies Proposition 1 and Proposition 7, which have been key to the funding for TxDOT in the last few years, and they were part, more importantly, they were part of the forecast for the future. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen with the future revenues of Prop 1 and Prop 7, and therefore the idea to put so much money on a single project requires a little more thought. So they were asking pretty much in this letter to delay the decision. So back to our item. We placed this item on the agenda, early, given all the stuff that is going on right now. Honestly, I don't feel very comfortable providing any official comments. I am not recommending to you, board members, to take any position on this, because again, it puts us in a very awkward situation. Again, I wouldn't want any other region meddling into our business, so why are we meddling into the business of Austin and all that? So that is my very personal recommendation, but I would like to have, well, discussion if we can, or hear if there are any thoughts or ideas on from some of the board members.
Mr. Rodriguez, Councilman Rodriguez. I totally agree. I think, it's not about meddling in somebody else's district, but it is category 12, and, it's particularly some of our funding as well. If we start doing this, then what other categories are they going to start moving money from to continue doing these projects somewhere else?
This is Representative Ortega. I do believe that our NPO director, if necessary, should be able to comment on it, because this is a very significant amount of money that the commission is looking at putting into just one project. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars, and funding is going to get tighter just because of what's taking place right now with our public health crisis. So we should, I think, depending on how things develop and depending on what the commission decides with regards to the letter being sent by the Senate chair and House chair on transportation, I think that our community also needs to be prepared to respond. So I think that even though there's not yet determined or predetermined action as to how to respond, our director needs to be able to make comment if necessary.
We can submit, a written comment as part of it, or participate at the public hearing on the April 7th public hearing. My question to the board is, I would need to have some direction on specifically what to say. If I'm going to speak on behalf of the board, I would really like to have some clarity on what to say and what not to say. Again, like I said before, it's a touchy situation in the sense that as it is right now, going against what the commission wants to do is awkward enough, right? Opposing it. Now, on the especially in the light when we are submitting our RMS 2020 plan and asking for funding. On the other side, yeah, I don't disagree that there's a ton of it's a lot of money that they're proposing to put on a single project, and without knowing what the outlook is, it's difficult to justify putting so much money in there. But again, I'd like to have a little more specificity.
Yeah, Mr. Cabo, this is Senator Rodriguez.
Senator,
Yes.
go ahead, sir.
Yes, I agree that you should have more specificity. And following up on Representative Ortega's comment, it seems to me that the letter from both the Senate and the House chairpersons of transportation to the commission is a strong indication to them, to the commission, that they should hold off on this decision at this time, given the circumstances. So I think that our position should be to send a similar type of letter, or for you, Mr. Cabo, to express a similar type of position that in the interest of caution, that we hold off, that they hold off the commission with this process until we have a better sense of what's going to be available for our communities. Because as Representative Ortega pointed out, everybody's expecting that in some of the conference calls that I've been with the Lieutenant Governor and the Senate members, that there's going to be a very tough session coming up with a shortage of funding for different programs throughout the state. So I think it would be prudent for us to take the position along the lines of what the two chairpersons have expressed in their letter.
Okay, so again, the comment would be to echo the request or the points that are made in that letter. Okay.
That's my position, yes.
Here's the chair.
I'm sorry, who?
I agree that we do have some concern about the amount of money that might be spent on this one particular project at one time. However, at a time when we have constantly been calling out TechDOT and various others for not having the appropriate levels of funding, and we are just now beginning to make inroads. Is this a dog that we want to chase too much? I mean, certainly we can disagree and want more time, but from a perspective of dealing with the commission itself, should we come out and automatically oppose them publicly and go on record that way when we're just now beginning to build a reputation with them or a communication with them? I'm just concerned about the optics of us jumping on a bandwagon that doesn't do us any good. So those are my comments.
This is Representative Ortega again. Mr. Calvo, do we know what the other metro areas are going to be doing? We know about Dallas, but is there any other indication from the other urban communities as to what position they're going to take?
This is Eduardo. Not to my knowledge, but I do know because I participated in the meeting with all the Texas MPOs, TEMPO, a couple of days ago, and this item was discussed. There's a lot of course, this is just at the staff level, right? All the discussion in general terms at the staff level said that, you know, if comments we're going to make, you know, we need to check with our respective policy boards and all that. So but what I can tell you is at the staff level there was not a lot of appetite to get involved in this. But again, on the other side, if there are policy boards that want to take a position, the policy board set policy. So So you have the ability, the authority to direct us to do that. So it's a long answer to say that I really don't know if anybody else is going to be submitting a comment.
Well, I guess what I can add is that Senator Nichols has a lot of influence when it comes to the commission, and it could be that we may not need to take a position because the commission may decide to postpone because of the letter from Senator Nichols. It's my understanding that they've actually already moved the meeting back in terms of they're going to be looking at the amendment to the UCP for the 2020 on this specific project. So I agree with Commissioner Miller that, or Representative Miller, that we do have to be careful because we are seeking funding under Category 12 as well, and so we've got to be careful in terms of what we do. That's why that's my concern, thinking of what happens. Then potentially we could comment, but I think that we have to wait to see what the large urban communities are doing on this, and potentially we may not have to comment because the commission themselves may go ahead and postpone the amendment.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly been a fundamental change of circumstances since we last spoke about this last month. Right.
All right, so the direction is
just to be clear, so the direction for the executive director is to not provide comment on this item directly to the Texas Transportation Commission? Is there consensus on that?
In fact, I think it's important that one will be at the meeting.
Yes.
And continue to speak about the El Paso MPO position. We don't need to cease our advocacy efforts on this issue. I don't think we have to speak directly to it.
That's a good point. And just highlighting the needs of other regions. Okay. Any further comment on that point? I think we have public comment, but before we get to public comment, well, I want to see if there was any other comments from members of the TPB. Okay. We have public comment from
Representative Rodriguez.
Yes, Alderman.
Yes. I believe we should give Mr. Calvo some leeway. You know, I understand that we've done the waiting, and we've been getting a lot of help with projects and stuff like that. But it is Category 12, and I think that if he goes out there and he has all these meetings and he's in the division talking to them, and it comes up, and if it's into our best interest, I think that he should have or be able to at least respond and say, hey, you know what, this could, potentially harm us. I think that I just don't want to muzzle him in any way just because we feel that we're going to step on somebody's toes. But what I want everybody to understand is that, okay, so it's okay for them to step on our toes with our funding. I don't like it. I think that, if they move forward on this, what are the repercussions of them doing it over and over and over again? So then what's going to happen potentially with funding that we're looking at Category 12? Like I said prior to this, I said, what happens if they start doing it on Category 12 and then they move on to other categories and start moving money around and doing all these big projects somewhere else? And what about our project? I understand that we just, prior to this agenda item, we already allocated money for Verizon and amended our plans and stuff. I mean, it's okay, but what about everybody, every other community in our MPO that needs projects and that need category 12? You know, we can't just say, oh, okay, well, you know, we don't want to step on anybody's toes. That's not right. You know, I think that we should let Mr. Calvo have a little bit of leeway. And if it came down to it, at least he voices concerns for our community, not a community, our community. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Alderman. And I think what the executive director is looking for is some guidance or at least some parameters because it puts him in an awkward. I understand your point about giving him leeway, but when there's ambiguity in that, it puts him in a very awkward situation. You know, he's not the policymaker. It's up to the TPB what positions he advocates for. And so I think as long as there's consensus as to what parameters there are, what he can oppose, what he can not oppose, who he should be opposing it to, just to give him guidance, so that way he's not put in the awkward situation of having to make these quasi-policy decisions on the fly that should really be, which is really at the purview of the TPB. So there has to be just, if not, a specific action or specific guidance there. I think there just has to be clear parameters on what, he's allowed to say, not allowed to say, or who he says that to. Because if he were to write a letter, let's say to the TTC, I think that's, at least from from hearing folks, that's not the direction we want to go in, right? At least from my understanding. And so that's why, at least putting some parameters on what he can do is important.
Right. Now, on the other side, this Eduardo, on the other side, this doesn't prevent from anybody individually to submit comments, right? Anybody is invited to submit comments. But if you submit a comment, you submit it on your own, not as a member of the TPB, right? Because individually, we don't speak for the TPB. But the other option would be also for that letter to be submitted by the chair of the policy board. Because again, if this is more of a policy statement, then as chair of the policy board, you would be submitting it. That's another option.
Any other comments from other TPB members before we go to public comment?
Well, I've got a question.
Yes, Councilman. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay, sorry. I understand how we're having mixed feelings on this, but I think Mr. Rodriguez said a point where he says, we have to allow Mr. Calvo to speak on the fact that if they consider any road in Texas is important, we should also be able to express our needs for our roads down here in El Paso, which they're just as important as anywhere else. I think Mr. Calvo should have the leeway to speak on that behalf, but speak. I know you don't want to go with guns blazing, but you need to speak on our behalf and say how important it is over here, because I sure hate to lose funding to another part of Texas when that could come over here to El Paso or the county of El Paso or just outside. And my other question would be, how are you going to make this motion? Is it going to change from the initial motion that you're going to say that everyone to speak in order to submit, or how are we going to put this motion in sound like? Mr. Chair.
I'm not sure. Well, on the first part, again, I think you're absolutely right, and at least from hearing from what other board members have said, unless there's other comments, there does seem to be agreement to give Mr. Calvo, again, that leeway to talk about the priorities for the region, talk about the needs of the region when communicating, whether it be with TTC or other stakeholders in that. Regarding specifically the wording of the item, I would say that you're already technically designated authorized representative for the MPO.
Okay,
But
just like that, okay.
But again, I think he's looking for I think
Right.
what he's asking for is guidance on, and I think, or hopefully you're getting some good feedback. If there's, or tell us what's not clear yet from, or specifically, like.
Right, I think the comment could be supporting the letter that was sent. In other words, supporting the decision to delay until more information is known about the funding, the funding scenarios that we have in the future. Instead of saying, getting into the specifics of, yes, we support Plan B over Plan A, right? So the letter would be more like saying, yeah, we support the delay of this decision until more information is known.
Okay, well, what does the board, or what do the TPB members have to say about that?
This is Representative Ortega. I think we should just wait and see what the commission decides on that letter without this community at this point saying anything. But again, we have in the past allowed our NGO director to speak when he knows that he ought to be doing it, and so I think we should just give him again that discretion. He is our director, and we have to place trust in him.
So the board is comfortable with him submitting a formal letter, or I should probably understand if I understand you correctly, at least supporting the delay of, this is not necessarily supporting the Dallas MPO's policy alternative.
Yeah, and if I understand Representative Ortega's suggestion is to wait and see what happens. Because again, the limit or the deadline to submit comments, I forget what it was, Gabby, can you bring back whatever the deadline is, yeah, there we go. Right, we have until, I guess, April 7th to submit comments. I don't know if we're going to know if the commission is going to delay this based on the letter or not. April 7th is the day of the public hearing, where I guess, through phone or WebEx, we can also provide verbal comments. So is it okay, Representative Ortega, to wait until that time and then see what happens?
My recommendation would be just to wait, because it's important in terms of making sure, and it's kind of looking at it a different way, that we are making inroads with the commission, and I think at this point, we don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes. And I suspect that, again, going back to Senator Nichols' request, I think that because he is asking it, I think that it is going to be delayed.
Okay, Alderman Miller.
Wait.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I support Representative Ortega's position. I believe we're premature in trying to excite here. There's a lot of moving pieces here that can happen between now and then. Again, I don't want to muffle Mr. Caldwell's opportunities to comment. I think he should take every comment we have, every opportunity he has to comment before the commission. I just don't believe we need to get into this fight right now.
Comments? Representative Blanco, I saw you kind of raise your hand earlier. I don't know if you were raising your hand or, but any other comments before we go to public comments? Mr. Steve Ortega had a comment.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to chime in on this particular issue. I'm in agreement with Alderman Rodriguez, Councilman Miller, Representative Ortega, and Representative Rivera, speaking on behalf of the El Paso Chambers Mobility Coalition. That situation is changing daily. It's very fluid. I think that relationships have been built with TxDOT administrative staff and with the members of the Transportation Commission. And I think Mr. Cabo is a professional. He's done an excellent job, not only helping to craft a plan here in El Paso so that we don't become Austin 20 years from now. And I would recommend allowing him to use his discretion consistent with the plans that have been endorsed by the Transportation Policy Board, because the situation is fluid. And that may mean he says nothing at all, but I think he understands the administrative and the political concerns well enough to do a great job presenting El Paso's interests, if need be, in Austin as it relates to the delay and the situation in Austin. So that would be our recommendation to the board, consistent with a lot of the comments that have already been made.
Thank you. Well, and I certainly think this feedback is what Mr. Caldwell was looking for, right?
Right.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's...
Yes, and absolutely. We put this item on the agenda because we thought it was very important to give the board the opportunity to discuss this. Not necessarily because I'm dying to get into the in the middle of a firefight, right? But yeah, if I may say this, Mr. Chair, I'm comfortable with that. If you give me a little bit of leeway to that, and like Mr. Ortega said, if it's not appropriate, if it's better to not say anything, well then, just let the process flow without us getting in the middle.
So there was a previous question on the actual item itself. I mean, does there need to be action on this item, or I think the TPB is kind of already given direction through its...
So I actually think there is action needed as far as I interpret the conversation in the event that the executive director determines in his best judgment that he needs to say something. He's authorized to do so. However, that authority comes with all the other directives that he just received from the board members, which I'm sure he'll be mindful of. But if he wants to be present at the meeting and actually be able to convey something on behalf of this board, I think the motion should be approved as worded.
That would be your motion. I would make a motion to approve.
Before we do it. Okay, so we're certain. I mean, I just want to be clear, because I mean, in his capacity as executive director, just the way it's worded, I mean, he's always sort of a representative for the TPB. But I mean, since we're not specifically directing him to make
Any specific?
I mean, that's just my only question. Is that since we're not directing him to write a letter to TTC, we're not directing him to do that. I mean, we're essentially asking him to take the feedback that's been talked about here by various members of the board. I mean,
correct.
Which should, at least in my time. I mean,
so I think that's part of the way there, right? He needs the direction from the board, which is why I think he brought this to you all. But I feel he wants authority, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eduardo. So for purposes of the motion as it's worded, discussion action number 9, allow and approve Eduardo Gallo El Paso MPO to submit comments to the TTC on behalf of the El Paso TPB for the proposed amendments to 2020 Unified Transportation Program. He's not asking you to allow him to make specific comment or weigh in one way or the other. He's asking for the authority, I think, to show up and just have the ability to say something if, in your discretion, and after having considered everything that TPB members told you, which are directives that are being given to him, he considers it necessary to actually speak. Otherwise, you think you will not speak at the meeting? Is that correct? If this motion fails and you're not allowed to, or postpone, and you're not allowed to submit comments, you won't submit any comments?
I would not submit any comments on behalf of the TPB.
Okay, you would.
Right.
Okay. Well, then there is a distinction there.
Right.
But you would submit comments on behalf of just in your own personal experience?
As a staff member of the El Paso MPO.
But if you go to this meeting, do you want to submit comments on behalf of the TPB?
Well, I think it's a question if the TPB members want.
Well, exactly, sure. Which is why the motion's here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I mean, I'm just of the opinion that I think he's gotten a sufficient direction and has heard from enough of the board members to understand the parameters in which he has to work with.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. And I think the purpose of the motion, one is to secure TPB approval, but secondly is also so that Eduardo has the proper direction. If you feel you have the proper direction, then we can proceed with that.
I think I do.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, there'll be no action on this item?
Yeah. Or it'll either be no action on this item or the item or the requested action will be denied. So it's because he's requesting approval to go speak and submit comments.
Right, I'm requesting approval, so I think I would ask for the approval.
Okay. Well,
Subject to.
Okay, yeah. So that was my initial position. He gets the approval.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
through the chair,
Yes, sir.
I would move that we, as a Transportation Policy Board, move to allow Mr. Convo to attend the meeting to speak at discretion under the parameters of which we have spoken today, using that as direction. That's my motion.
Second. I would second that immediately.
Yep.
Okay. Are members of the TPB clear?
To comment at his discretion under the parameters we have discussed at this meeting, and at the direction of the comments are one of the comments that he heard today.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rodriguez.
Yes, Senator.
The confusing part about this is, Mayor Miller just said under the parameters of our discussion today. Well, the parameters, as I have heard them throughout, are that we not say anything, that we not step on the toes of the commission. So I don't know that Eduardo is being given clear directives from the whole policy board regarding what our position is when it's time for him to make a comment, if the time comes. I mean, if I understand Mr. Calvo's discussion with us is we have until April 7th, everybody has until April 7th to make public comments on this proposal by the commission. And what Representative Ortega and others have said is we should not comment. We should not step on the commission's toes. We should wait to see what happens if the commission decides that the two chairpersons' positions, the transportation committee persons, influences them to withdraw the proposal. But we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. In the meantime, the commission is asking for comments from all of us as to what we think about it. And so you've got Dallas with their proposal. That's not our proposal. But we should, it seems to me, have a clearer position articulated for Mr. Calvo so that he knows, he has some sense of what it is that this policy board feels on this particular position. And there are those who say, don't do anything, we'll continue working behind the scenes to try to get things done because we've made some advances, we don't want to step on anybody's toes. And there are some of us who feel, at least I think Councilman Rodriguez and others, that, we need to protect our own interests too as a policy board for our whole region, and involving everybody. So all I'm saying here is I heard Mayor Miller's motion, but I don't think that motion really gives the direction clearly to what Mr. Calvo is supposed to say, if anything. Just pointing that out.
For the board members that spoke earlier, any comment on that?
This is Walter Miller.
You can leave it the way it is. I just think that motion does not give clear directive to Mr. Calvo as to what position to take. It's telling him that he should exercise some discretion and make comments consistent, as the mayor said, with what's been discussed here in this item. And what I'm pointing out is what's been discussed really is to say, don't say anything. We don't want to step on anybody's toes. We don't want to take a position on this. And so I don't know that he's got clear direction.
This is Walter Miller, through the chair.
Sure. Go ahead, sir.
And I thank you, Senator Rodriguez, for those comments, but I do believe that my motion is clear enough in that we have had lengthy discussion here about where we want to be as an MPO. My main point is that we are at the commission hearings and we are present and we are involved and engaged. That being said, we need to understand, and Mr. Calvo understands this clearly, that the direction of this MPO is not to antagonize or to be involved in a issue that is not necessarily going to affect us immediately. And as has been repeatedly said, this is a very fluid situation. We don't want him to send him down there with the ability not to speak, but we have to trust him as a professional to be able to adapt his comments as necessary. Therefore, that is why I left my motion a little bit so that he would be able to make those adjustments on the fly. So that is the reason that my motion is pretty much open-ended that way. It does require us to trust our executive director to understand the direction of our board, and I believe we gave him enough commentary today for him to be able to reasonably make that decision. So those are my comments there.
Representative Ortega, I second your motion.
So the motion is made by Alderman Miller. And the second was by Representative Ortega. Okay, so there's a motion made by Alderman Miller, a second by Representative Ortega. Again, Alderman Miller, I think, specified that, I think, Mr. Calvo, you got the direction it is that you need. Are there any members opposed to this item as stated by Alderman Miller?
Chair, this is
Alderman Rodriguez. Go ahead, sir.
Before I vote, I just want to clarify. So, Mr. Calvo is in the direction, just so I can understand it. He's getting a directive that he's going to go out there, sit there, pay attention, but if it came down to a question of who's opposed to this, are we saying don't oppose it, or is he going to be able to put his 2 cents and say, hey, I believe that Paso Appeal is going to be affected for whatever the cause or whatever the reason?
Now, Mr. Calvo, you can correct me if I'm wrong. From my understanding from what Mr. Calvo said earlier, I think he has the leeway to go up, advocate, again, speak to El Paso's priorities, the region's needs. Again, as Representative Ortega said, not stepping on anybody's toes, whereas, we're not going to overtly say, we oppose, this particular decision. He has to use his judgment in that sense.
Right, of course. All I'm saying is, I'm not advocating to go down there just blazing. What I'm saying is, he is going to be able to say, any comment as vague as possible to say, well, if you guys catch on this, the MPO will be affected. That's it. It's not, I disagree with the board. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, he's going to be able to say, well, this is going to be, it's potentially going to harm projects in the El Paso County MPO.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and I think given the fluidity of the situation that we find ourselves in, not only here in the state but in the nation, he has that flexibility. We're not directing him to speak and to give comments. We're not directing him to not speak and not say anything. Again, just given the circumstances and as things move forward, again, given the fluidity of the circumstances, he's going to have to use his judgment given the direction and or the conversations that were had here at the board. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm fair with that.
And if somebody with the board disagrees with okay, so there's a motion by Alderman Miller and a second by Representative Ortega. Any member of the board oppose this item? Or abstain? A few seconds for the delay. Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I'm getting messages that the TechStep folks are having a hard time with audio, and they want to make a note for the record that Tomas Trevino abstains from this vote, given he's a district engineer. So for the record, he would abstain. Is that okay with you?
Okay. So there's an abstention from the district engineer. Okay. Item passes.
All right. Item number 10. Designate Eduardo Calvo as the authorized representative for the El Paso MPO for the purposes of executing the Federal Transit Administration's FY 2020 certifications and assurances. Again, this is just a procedural item. I am not sure, and I'm looking at Gabby and Roger, if this is something that has been done in the past or really hadn't been, done in terms of formally having this item. In practice, what as the MPO being the recipient of FDA grants like 5310, we need to certify certain things like the fact that that there is a Title VI program and all these different things that we obviously comply with. So what FDA is requiring is some evidence that I am authorized to sign these certifications on behalf of a policy board. So with that, unless there are any questions, we would recommend approval on this.
Okay. Any questions or comments from
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, Alderman Rodriguez makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Palacios.
Okay, there's a second by Ms. Palacios. Just a few seconds. Is there any discussion? All right. Any members opposed to this item or abstentions? Okay. Hearing none, item passes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, now we move on to reports, and I promise that these are going to be super fast. Item 11, Statewide Transportation Systems Management and Operations Program and Regional Intelligent Transportation Systems, ITS Architecture. I don't know if Sonia, are you on the line? Do you want to give a brief introduction or have the consultant who's going to be presenting this take over? All right. Well, I think we have Victor de la Garza from AECOM directly. So, Victor, if you want to unmute your microphone, do you have it? That's so. Victor de la Garza, unmute, please. Do you have the presentation, Gabby?
Mm-hmm.
Victor, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. All right. So
Okay.
you are on the
Okay,
WebEx,
well,
so you can see the screen, right?
I can see the screen.
Okay, so then Gabby will be advancing the slides. Just let her know.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you, board, for having me here. My name is Victor de la Garza. I'm with AECOM, and I'm working with TEXA in the MPO to support. AECOM is working with TEXA in the MPO to support the development of the Transportation Systems Management and Operation Program Plan, and also to update the regional ITS architecture update. Next slide, please. So the Transportation System Management and Operations is a philosophical shift that focuses on operational improvements that can maintain and restore the performance of existing transportation systems before extra capacity is needed. And right there on the slide, we have the definition from FHWA, Garcismo, and also from TEXA. And as you can see from the highlighted words, some of the keywords there are integrated strategies and optimized performance. So this is a different way, and different system consists of different ideas to maximize the existing capacity before adding additional payment structure. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're gonna watch a short video clip that explains a little bit more what this was.
In supporting our has been adopted by the Texas Transportation Commission with the goal of achieving 0 deaths on our roadways by 2050, with a midway goal to cut fatalities in half by 2035. Furthermore, an average urban commuter spends an extra 42 hours of travel time on roads each year, as compared to traveling in free-flow conditions. Traffic accidents and congestion also impact
Can you listen to the audio? I was not having to hear on my right.
and rural corridors.
We can hear the audio.
Transportation Systems Management and Operations, or TSMO, is a nationwide program to optimize the performance of our existing transportation infrastructure by preserving capacity and improving security, safety, and reliability. TSMO also provides an opportunity to foster a higher level of collaboration among TxDOT departments, as well as external agencies, to improve our business processes, systems, technologies, and culture, and develop a workforce to meet our needs for tomorrow. TSM.
I don't know if you can listen to the audio, but basically what this point is the difference of few things working together. We can work together. A lot of the strategies are already being developed by the different agencies, such as work zone and connected vehicle strategies and things like that. And it's simple. It just captures everything and make them under one program plan to make this happen.
As well as work zone, incident, transit, freight, integrated corridor, and active traffic management, and other programs, including the application of emerging technologies. TSMO also includes low-cost enhancements that can be implemented quickly to improve operational safety or reduce congestion on the highway system. TSMO is a performance-based approach aimed at improving our multimodal transportation systems. Performance measures are monitored and applied to support continuous improvement. Performance measures are also used to ensure that we are achieving a higher return on our investments in the TSMO program. Within metro, urban, and rural areas, TSMO will change the way we operate our transportation management centers in transforming from reactive to proactive operations. Video walls and workstations will begin to post real-time and predictive performance metrics to improve situational awareness, enabling our operations staff to implement traffic mitigation strategies before they become a problem. As emerging technologies advance, they will be mainstreamed into our systems, laying the foundation for building the transportation infrastructure of the future. These technologies include connected, automated, shared, electric vehicles, and mobility-on-demand programs. While we are proud of our past accomplishments in building a nationally recognized transportation system, we realize we have more work to do. Through collaboration and leadership, we will continue to deliver a safe, reliable, and integrated system, enabling the efficient movement of people and goods in building a transportation infrastructure of the future.
Okay, at the end of the meeting, please. I don't know if the sound actually came through your audio, but this is everything that was spoken and narrated. The video was actually spelled out in the video clip. Yeah, so next slide, please. So the SISMO program plan is a program that captures a lot of strategies to improve and optimize the existing roadways. And as you can see on this little graph, everything starts with the stakeholders and collaboration. So bringing everybody together, the whole community together, different agencies, Texas, City of El Paso, counties, and in the surrounding cities, to work together and develop strategies to optimize existing highways. There on the screen we have different strategies that can be implemented, such as workflow management, special events, accident management, and right at the center we have ITS architecture, which we're going to talk about next. In regards to the SISMO program plan, TXDOT is taking the leadership on leading the effort and getting the program started. The program is barely starting, so we're going to engage the community pretty soon, the different agencies, to participate and capture their concerns and develop this program plan. As far as ITS architecture, the ITS architecture provides a framework for planning, defining, and integrating ITS. ITS architecture provides a roadmap. It identifies systems to be interconnected and shared between the different agencies. For example, say TXDOT has CCTV cameras, and the City of El Paso also has CCTV cameras, and Sun Metro wants to have few of those cameras to monitor their bus routes. The ITS architecture identifies those connections, that connectivity, so the resources can be shared and the systems can be optimized. ITS architecture supports implementation for 5, 10 to 20 year time period for a region. However, due to technology's advances and improvements, it is recommended for this ITS architecture plan to be updated every 3 to 5 years. Next slide, please. So why do we need ITS architecture? The first and most important thing, it qualifies for funding. Without having an ITS architecture plan, federal funds most likely are going to be denied, or you're going to have a hard time trying to get funding for ITS projects. Also, transportation systems are becoming more complex, and the need to be integrated between agencies is every day more important. So having a plan in place and identify those needs early can actually facilitate the electronic information sharing. Next slide, please. So what are the goals and objectives of the ITS architecture plan for this project? Well, the existing architecture for this region, for the El Paso region, was developed in 2003. So the FHWA updates their architecture standards every 3 to 5 years. So we will update the original architecture to the latest national architecture. This is going to identify integration opportunities among different agencies. Something that wasn't a need back in 2003 may be a need now in 2020. It also facilitates integration and cooperation between the different agencies and promotes the strategic planning for ITS in coordination with SISMO program plans and ITS master plan. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of ITS architecture? Well, identifying some of the integration needs early reduces the time, cost, and development time. It assists an orderly and efficient expansion of the ITS systems and lowering the cost over the existing life cycle, promotes better communication with the stakeholders, and promote better communication between the systems. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from you? Okay. No question?
All right, thank you, Victor. Moving on to item number 12, 2050 MTP. Roger?
Yes, Roger Williams with the El Paso EPMPO. The 2045 Destino is our current long-range transportation plan. It is going to need to be updated. We do an update to our transportation plan on a 4-year cycle. Because we're in a non-attainment area, we have a restriction to do it more often than areas that are not in non-attainment. So we'll be developing it from scratch here at the MPO, and we'll follow through with developing the guiding principles, goals, objectives. This will involve the review of other plans, have the feedback and the CPP involved in this process as well. Through the needs assessment, we're looking at a multimodal plan. Plan will look at the safety element and regional and international coordination. It'll take into consideration the need for operations, maintenance, and performance measures will be set through that process as well. Data collection is already ongoing. This is an important part of it. There will be a call for projects for the new plan. This will be coming up relatively soon. In the month of April, we will be sending out to the agencies for a request for their priority projects. We'll go through the evaluation process here at the MPO, and there will be scenarios developed for the plan. The public involvement element will involve the listening sessions. It's very successful in the development of our current casino, and we'll reach out to our stakeholders, of course, and the normal regional meetings that we have. We'll follow through with those, whether we're doing in-person actual meetings or if we're doing virtual public involvement, and we'll be utilizing our social media to reach out to the public as well. Also, the financial planning and fiscal constraints will involve the Texas and New Mexico highway funds, and as well as the transit element of that. Along with this, there will be a update to our TIP, and that will be in coordination with the Department of Transportation, developing the new travel demand model. And the travel demand model is already ongoing. It'll have a base year for 2017. We've already kicked this off with the consultant, but we'll be involving more the entities here very soon. Forecast years, not all of these are actual years for the need to do fiscal constraints. Some of these are demonstration years, but it's part of the actual development of the travel demand model. And since that's going on in coordination and in line with the development plan, we'll be in close coordination with that model, the new model that we're developing to do analyses for the MTP. And of course, because we are in non-attainment area, we'll have to update our transportation conformity report, and that process is to involve the consultation partners and go through that process as well to receive conformity. Now, the last thing I'd like to say is that we are on a 4-year clock, as I mentioned before, and the November of 2022 is when we'll have to have a new plan in place. So we are expecting that we'll make that successfully, and we'll be on the track. So you will be involved throughout the entire process. So with that said, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Kevin, can you scroll to the top? Okay. Roger, the only thing I would like to add, this is Eduardo again. As part of the development of the travel demand model that we are already initiating, we are going to start the demographic analysis, which will require the participation of many of the agencies here. We're going to be using a Delphi technique where these projections are going to be tested, and this group of experts from all the different agencies and all that will give guidance to the development of the projections. So the point here is that you will be receiving an invitation to participate in this, and maybe not you directly, board members, but members of your agency. And so we ask you to encourage your staff to participate, because again, the demographics are one of the most important pieces of the travel demand model. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. So with that, Mr. Chair, we're done with 12. So moving on to item 13, Executive Director's Report. So on RMS, very quickly, the first bullet, just to report to you all, as you've heard in past discussions, Representative Lina Ortega and I, along with Steve Ortega and Raymond Tellez of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, we attended in person the February 17th TTC meeting and made comments for El Paso, talking about RMS 2020 and advocating for the needs for our region. The second bullet, between the last TPB meeting and this TPB meeting, we went to the county and the city of El Paso for resolutions of support, which we obtained both from the county and the city at the time. March the 2nd for the county and March 16th for the city of El Paso. Again, as part of RMS 2020, it's important for us to show the support of the region. So far we've had resolutions of support for RMS from the city of El Paso, the county, from the village of Vinton, from the RMA, and from the town of Horizon City. Pending, we've already asked the city of Socorro to help us put that item on the agenda, and hopefully Representative Rodriguez, you can help us with that, as well as with the town of Anthony, Texas. The third bullet there, the TTC meetings that were held March 25th and 26th, that was on Tuesday and Wednesday. Representative Ortega and the state delegation had some meetings with the Texas Transportation Commissioners, and Representative Ortega, I don't know if you want to say something briefly about those meetings.
Sorry, I needed to unmute. Just to do a really quick report on that, the state House delegation participated in those meetings with the commissioners. It was done on the web, and we basically, it was a presentation to show the importance of Category 12 funding that we are seeking for this community. A quick summary.
Great, thank you. We also had a meeting on the 26th, yesterday actually, with the Texas administration separately with Executive Director James Bass, Brian Barth, folks from their legislative affairs people, and of course with Tomas Trevino Neri Valtier representing here the El Paso district. Very good meeting. Again, we continue communicating to the commissioners and to the administration about El Paso making a lot of progress in terms of identifying priorities and having consensus from the policy board, the fact that the RMS plan passed almost unanimously, and so on. Overall, I think I was not present at the TTC member meetings, but I think everything went very well. They were very receptive. I know that the administration, I was part of that meeting, they received the message, I think, fairly well. But of course, all of this is within the uncertainty that we're facing, that we have discussed. So we continue making our case, and we will continue making our case in the future commission meetings.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator, go ahead.
It's Senator Rodriguez.
Go ahead, Senator.
Yes, I have three questions for Mr. Caldwell, if I may, and I'm going to ask all three of them so that we can then take them up together. Eduardo, what is our funding strategy, and have we worked with TxDOT to schedule the Northeast Bypass for 2021 UTP and the Downtown 10 for 2022 UTP? And then the second question is, what are the chances of both being funded? And third, what is the chance of the Downtown 10 being the only project funded? Can you comment on those?
Yeah, Senator, I think the best answer I have is that I wish all of them would get funded. Again, as you know, the request is really for category 12, which is this discretionary funding, and the commission has pretty much the say on which projects to fund.
Well, I understand that we at one of our meetings, maybe 2 meetings ago, I asked you in terms of the priority, the priority between the I-10, downtown I-10 and the Northeast Bypass. You said that both of them were top priority, but obviously as we come down to the decision making on the availability of funds under category 12, which is it that we're going to seek first?
Well, in terms of the request, it is very clear that the three priority projects that are not funded, which are I-10 Segment 2, I-10 Segment 3, and the Borderland Expressway, all three are submitted. As you know, RMS 2020 identifies the three, and in terms of the requested or the tentative lettings for them, yeah, Borderland Expressway would come in first. However, it is clear that the top priority for the plan, as has been stated, is a reconstruction of I-10. So, again, not with the uncertainty or the additional uncertainty from the last couple of months. I wish I could tell you which projects would get funded.
Well, which one are we lobbying for?
Well, the projects on I-10 have been established as a top priority for sure, and Borderland Expressway is, as part of RMS 2020, is also part of the plan. Again, we need to continue working with the administration and with the commission to ideally we would have all the projects funded, but it's going to take a little bit.
Well, yeah, right, and that's why I asked, what are the chances of both being funded? I mean, ideally, we'd like to have both, right?
Of course. Not only that, but Segment 3, even though Segment 3 is farther down, along. That's more of a, 6-7 year project.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know you're trying to do the best you can, and I'm just trying to see if we can get more clarity on where we are with these.
right. What I can tell you clearly is that the top priority is the I-10 corridor, and we are supporting projects that are on I-10, which are Segment 2 and Segment 3, and of course the Borderland Expressway that supports the I-10 corridor by creating the bypass. But yeah, I think it is also very clear to all of us that the reconstruction of I-10 Segment 2 is the number one priority. That is clear to all of us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
All right. The final bullet there is related to I-10 Segment 2, or now being called Downtown I-10. Just to report that on March the 4th, the TxDOT organized had the kickoff meeting for the steering committee. again, I know TxDOT is having audio problems here, but we can't hear them. But the intent of the steering committee is really to steer the study, or not the study, but the next phase of the project, which is the NEPA and preliminary engineering phase. Again, we have stated in many occasions that this is really the process, or the step in the process where a lot of public comment, different alternatives are going to be developed and analyzed. All of them have to be looked at with the same level of detail. And as far as the NEPA process, the steering committee, it was a kickoff meeting, but it was pretty much to figure out who is there, who needs to be part of that steering committee. So the fact that it was a kickoff doesn't mean that others cannot participate. I also understand from the TxDOT process that individual work groups are going to be created. Identifying, maybe perhaps smaller groups than a large steering committee to make, the work more productive. So with that, again, making sure that everybody knows that the schematic and NEPA phase of the project is beginning, and encouraging everybody to participate, to contact the local TxDOT office. I know a lot of the elected officials that sit in this board were invited to that steering committee, and there was a lot of discussion about the process, but let's make sure that the process works and it incorporates everybody's comments and concerns. All right. Next, just a short announcement that the TxDOT Planning Conference that was scheduled for the first week in May has been not delayed but canceled. So if anybody had already registered and all that, make sure that you process your cancellation, and you will get your refunds on all that. And the final bullet was really a placeholder, but of course we all know that what Governor Abbott has allowed us to do with to have these virtual telephone and video conferencing and all that. So that's all I have. I'm sorry, I have just one more that's not included there, but encourage everybody to attend the TxDOT Horizon Boulevard corridor study. They are beginning their virtual public meetings. The in-person public meetings were scheduled around this time, but of course now with the current situation, they're turning those into virtual public meetings. We will. I'll ask Marisol to send out the link to all of you, and also to the TPAC members, to everybody, to take a look at these virtual meetings that came online, I think, yesterday. I took a quick look, and they're really cool. They are really nice, and again, until we're able to have in-person public meetings again, this is something that we're going to have to rely to communicate stuff to the public. With that, Mr. Chair, I think that's it.
Again, well, I really appreciate everybody's, unless there's any further comments from TPB members on these reports, I really do appreciate everybody's patience. I appreciate everybody's work during these difficult times. I know everybody, on the TPB, each has a big responsibility, as our city, state, and nation faces this very difficult situation, which I fear is only going to get worse. But if we all, work together, I hope we can mitigate the worst of it. So thank you to everybody who's been working on this. Please, special thanks to our healthcare workers who are there on the front lines, fighting this pandemic. And so I just wanted to express my thanks to everybody. Thank you for your patience on this. We hope that we won't be in this situation for long. But again, we're the functions of government still have to continue, and hopefully next time around we'll get all the glitches out. I think today it went pretty smooth. Considering. I just had to fill the meter once. But thank you to everybody for your patience. And if we have to do this again next time, I'm sure it'll, we got all the kinks out to move forward. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Miller and a second by Representative Blanco.
No.
It was me.
Oh, sorry, Alderman Rodriguez.
I've been calling motions and everybody else gets credit.
Now.
All right. Okay, those in favor? Or anybody opposed to this motion? Okay, motion passes. Y'all stay safe and have a great weekend.
I'm actually